Hey everybody, it's Ron from Pick Dawgz, and this is Ron's Rundown. We're going to go over the MLB games scheduled for Wednesday, June 21st, 2023. Now, if you like what you see, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comments section below. And if you're looking for my best bets, including my $19 rundown best bet, you can find those at the Premium Picks tab at pickdawgz.com. Alrighty, let's get into it. Here are the games for Wednesday in Major League Baseball. First up, it's the Baltimore Orioles taking on the Tampa Bay Rays. Tyler Wells and Taj Bradley are your starters in this one. Now, I mentioned that I think the Orioles have a pretty sizable advantage in the bullpen in this series, but I also think they have the advantage in the starting pitching matchup in this game, as Taj Bradley has not pitched well at Tropicana Field. He's got a 4.19 ERA overall this season, but at Tropicana Field, an ERA at 7.13 in 17 2/3 innings of work. His strikeout numbers are good, but his opponent's batting average at 301 is concerning. Tyler Wells on the other side is having a good season for Baltimore, 6-2 record with that 3.2 ERA. His last start against a very good Blue Jays lineup, 6 2/3 innings, 2 runs, 8 strikeouts, and a 4-2 Orioles win. The Orioles are 4-1 on the money line in his last 5 starts. I think he's good enough here. I like the Orioles in this matchup on the money line on the road. Next up, it's the Miami Marlins hosting the Toronto Blue Jays. We're going to see Kevin Gausman and Sandy Alcantara on the mound in this one. Now, I bet going into the 2023 campaign, we figure this pitching matchup would be one of the better ones we'd see all season. However, even though Kevin Gausman's having a good year for Toronto, the defending Cy Young winner in the National League and Sandy Alcantara is not. He's at a 4.97 ERA. It doesn't look to be getting any better for Sandy. He's got his last start, 5 1/3 innings, 10 base hits, 5 earned runs, a home run, and only 1 strikeout against the Washington Nationals of all teams. Now, the Marlins went on to win that game, and they've actually won 4 of the last 5 starts for Sandy. He's pitched okay in certain spots, but he's just been very inconsistent. And yes, his bats have been able to back him up when they've needed to, but not against Kevin Gausman. I don't really trust the Marlins' bats against one of the better pitchers right now in the American League. And Gausman's been pitching better at Rogers Center this season than on the road, but his last start was on the road against the Texas Rangers. We know one of the tougher lineups to face and one of the tougher places to pitch for a right-handed pitcher. And Gausman went 6 innings of 1-run baseball in a 2-1 Blue Jays win. I think Gausman's the much better option here. I like the Blue Jays in this one on the money line. Next up, we see the Colorado Rockies taking on the Cincinnati Reds. We're going to see Kyle Freeland and Andrew Abbott on the mound in this one. Freeland was originally supposed to go on Tuesday, but they moved him to Wednesday. I really don't like this spot for the Rockies, though. Kyle Freeland, a left-handed pitcher. The Reds have hit lefties pretty well this year, and Andrew Abbott, a lefty himself, he's 3-0 with a 0.00 ERA in his first 17 2/3 innings at the big league level. He's only got 12 strikeouts. I'd like to see him miss some more bats, and he's got 9 walks allowed as well. So the control hasn't been great, but hasn't given up a single home run. And you're facing a Rockies team, and against lefties has got some of the worst numbers in baseball, especially as of late. This team strikes out quite a bit against left-handed pitching. So I think Abbott pitches well. I think the Reds bats are going to back him up. I think the Reds have the better bullpen, the better lineup, and the better starters. So give me the Cincinnati Reds at home on the money line. Next up, it's the Chicago Cubs taking on the Pittsburgh Pirates. We're going to see Kyle Hendricks and Rich Hill on the mound in this one. Kyle Hendricks started the season on the IL, so he only has 28 1/3 innings of work this year, but he's been pitching well. A 3.18 ERA. His last 2 games against the Orioles and Giants, 2 very good teams. We know the Giants are surging right now. The Orioles have had one of the better records in the American League basically all season. 13 innings combined, only 6 base hits, only 2 runs. He's not a strikeout guy. He's more of a pitch-to-contact guy that trusts in his ground ball stuff. He's got a 23-18 ground ball to fly ball ratio in those 2 starts. So he's in great form going into this game. And Rich Hill on the other side, his last game, 5 innings of work, 4 total runs, 3 of those were earned. 6 walks is the big concern for me. Rich Hill cannot have bad control. He's already a guy that doesn't really miss a lot of bats to begin with, doesn't really earn a lot of strikeouts, and does give up a good amount of base runners. But if you're walking batters as well, I just don't think you're going to have a lot of success. I think the Cubs win this game. I'm going to take them on the money line on the road. Next up, we see the Kansas City Royals taking on the Detroit Tigers. Brady Singer and Matthew Boyd are your starters. I'm going to take the Royals in the first 5 innings of this one. I do believe they have the better starting pitcher on the mound in this game, despite Brady Singer having that ERA at 6.33. We know he's in a little bit better of form as of late. His last start against the Angels, 5 1/3 innings, 2 runs, and 5 strikeouts. We know a very tough Angels lineup to face, especially as a righty. So I do think Singer, facing a weak Tigers lineup against right-handed pitching, should pitch well in this game. And Matthew Boyd on the other side, a 5.6 ERA this year, but an even steeper 8.46 ERA at Comerica Park in 27 2/3 innings, an 0-5 record there with only 20 strikeouts and 17 walks to go with it. A high opponent's batting average of .301. I can't trust Boyd in this game at Comerica. I'm going to take the Kansas City Royals in the first 5 innings on the money line. Next up, it's the Arizona Diamondbacks taking on the Milwaukee Brewers. Zach Gallen and Julio Teheran are your starters. Interesting game here. Zach Gallen has not pitched very well on the road this year. He's been excellent at Chase Field and overall a 2.96 ERA, but a 5.79 ERA on the road in 37 1/3 innings of work. That's a little bit concerning, but I still think Gallen is the better option here. Julio Teheran's off to a good start. I mean, he's 2-2 with a 1.78 ERA. Got to give him credit, but he has faced a good amount of weak lineups. The Pirates, the A's, the Cincinnati Reds don't hit righties too well. So I do think that the Diamondbacks are a team that limits strikeouts at the plate and has some of the better numbers against right-handed pitchers in baseball this season. I do believe they'll be able to get to Teheran early in this game. Should be enough for Gallen to win it for the Diamondbacks. So give me Arizona on the money line on the road. Next up, we see the New York Mets taking on the Houston Astros. Tylor Megill and Christian Javier are your starters. It's tough to know what you're going to get from Tylor Megill these days. We saw him pitch really well against the Blue Jays on June 3rd. He went 5 1/3 innings with 5 walks, but he only gave up 1 earned run and had 5 strikeouts in the end. That's against a very tough Blue Jays lineup. But then following that game against the Pittsburgh Pirates, 3 2/3 innings, 7 earned runs, 2 unearned runs in a 14-7 Mets loss. He follows that game up, though, on June 16th against the Cardinals, a very tough lineup against righties. 6 innings, 1 run, 7 strikeouts, a quality start, one of his best outings of the season. That's his last start. So I do think, against an Astros team that is certainly missing Yordan Alvarez quite a bit in the lineup, I do think Megill could put together a decent outing here. And Christian Javier, he's having a great season, a 2.9 ERA, but he is a strikeout-dependent starter. And we saw that with Hunter Brown in the first game of this series. Against a team like the New York Mets that do a really good job at limiting strikeouts, I have my concerns with pitchers like Javier and like with Brown. And, the Mets offense started to wake up in that St. Louis series. We saw what they did in the first game of this series, 11 runs scored. I think they'll be able to get to Christian Javier enough for a win in this game on the road. So give me the New York Mets on the money line on the road. Next up, it's the St. Louis Cardinals taking on the Washington Nationals. Miles Mikolas and Trevor Williams are your starters. Give me the over in this game. I can't trust either of these starting pitchers in this ballgame. Miles Mikolas, his last few starts, a lot of base hits, a lot of earned runs. His last 2 games, 12 innings, 15 base hits, and 11 earned runs with a home run to go with it, and virtually no strikeouts. He's only had 5 strikeouts combined in his last 3 games. Now you're facing a Washington Nationals team that really does a great job already at limiting strikeouts. I think the Nationals get to him early and often, but I also think that I think Trevor Williams in this Nationals bullpen is in trouble as well. We saw Trevor Williams his last couple of games, 9 1/3 innings combined, 14 base hits, 7 earned runs, 2 home runs, and 4 walks against the Braves and the Marlins. The Cardinals, as I mentioned, a pretty solid lineup against right-handed pitchers in the last 30 days. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. Give me the over in Washington, St. Louis. Next up, it's the Atlanta Braves taking on the Philadelphia Phillies. A.J. Smith-Shawver and Aaron Nola are your starters. Aaron Nola, there's 2 things in his game that's been a problem this season. One has been the home run ball. He's given up at least 1 home run in 10 straight starts dating back to April 21st against the Colorado Rockies. So that's a problem. You don't want to give up the long ball. But the other thing is avoiding the one big bad inning. We saw in his last game against the Arizona Diamondbacks an example of this, where he was spotless, Aaron Nola, basically throughout the game, except the 3rd inning, where he gave up those 4 runs. It started with a misplayed ball by Kyle Schwarber in left field. There was a home run in the inning, and it was just a bad inning overall. But other than that 3rd inning, 6 2/3, 9 strikeouts, it was enough for the Phillies to win that game in the end, 5-4. So the question is, does Nola give up too many home runs in this game, and does Nola have a one horrible inning that takes the Phillies out of the ballgame? I'm not so sure. Last year Nola pitched well against the Braves. So far this year, he had 1 start against them, struggled in that game, but I do think the Phillies bats are going to be able to back him up. A.J. Smith-Shawver, his last start, he went 5 1/3 innings against the Rockies, 5 2/3 innings, 3 earned runs and 2 home runs allowed is a big concern for me. Overall, only 11 strikeouts in 13 1/3 innings so far. It's a very small sample size in his big league, innings, but I still think the Phillies lineup has really improved in the last couple of weeks. They've gotten healthier in the lineup, and I do think they'll be able to get to Shawver in this game, Smith-Shawver in this game. So I think Aaron Nola is the better option in this one, but like I said, he's got to avoid that one big inning. Next up, we see the New York Yankees hosting the Seattle Mariners. Luis Castillo going for Seattle. No official starter for the Yankees right now. Last night I took a look at the team stats offensively in Major League Baseball from the beginning of the season. I wanted to look at the on-base percentage numbers, and I looked. The New York Yankees are the 3rd worst team in baseball on-base percentage-wise. Only two teams better are the Chicago White Sox and the Kansas City Royals. So yes, the Oakland A's, the Detroit Tigers, the Cleveland Guardians all have better on-base percentages than the New York Yankees, the Bronx Bombers do this season. We know injuries have played a big role in that. Aaron Judge has missed, different times this season. We see Giancarlo Stanton, Josh Donaldson out of the lineup in and out. Harrison Bader as well has also missed a good amount of time, and it's really been hard to find a spot where all four of those guys can be in the lineup at the same time. But this Yankees lineup is tough to trust right now, especially against a really good option on the mound in Luis Castillo, who's got a 2.73 ERA this season. Yes, his last game was not his best work. He had 6 walks allowed in that game, but he still went 5 2/3, only 2 runs and 6 strikeouts. He misses a lot of bats. The Yankees lineup without Judge has just suffered quite a bit. A lot of games where there's 3 runs or fewer scored from the Yankees, and I can't trust them in this game even at home. So give me the Seattle Mariners on the money line on the road. Next up, it's the Oakland Athletics taking on the Cleveland Guardians. Paul Blackburn going for Oakland. No official starter for the Guardians right now. Just a lean for me on the Oakland A's plus the 1.5 runs on the road. Paul Blackburn, I do believe him and J.P. Sears are the best options in this Oakland Athletics rotation. And while Blackburn was the lone all-star for the A's last season, he's pitched pretty well so far, 3.48 ERA. He started the season on the IL, but 20 2/3 innings of work, 23 strikeouts. He keeps the ball on the ground, doesn't really give up too much sharp contact, only 2 home runs allowed so far this season. Last start against a very good Rays lineup, 5 2/3 innings, 2 earned runs, 9 strikeouts. A really, really solid outing for Blackburn, just 1 out away from a quality start. I think he's good enough here to keep the A's competitive in this ball game. So just a lean for me with no official starter for the Guardians on the A's plus the 1.5 runs. Next up, we see the Boston Red Sox taking on the Minnesota Twins. Garrett Whitlock and Sonny Gray are your starters. We know the Red Sox have suffered some key injuries in their rotation, but it is a promising sign to see Garrett Whitlock pitching so well. His last 13 innings against the Yankees and Rockies, only 3 earned runs with 13 strikeouts and only 2 walks and 2 Red Sox victories. In fact, the Red Sox are 4-0 on the money line in his last 4 starts. And Sonny Gray on the other side, his control's been off a little bit. He hasn't really been able to pitch too deep into ball games lately. We saw only 4 innings of work against the Detroit Tigers and a loss last time out, 8-4. And the Red Sox lineup is starting to turn it on. We saw in the weekend series against the Yankees, this team scored a ton of runs. And the first game of the series, even though the Red Sox scored 9 runs and had 10 base hits in that game, Devers, Duvall, Yoshida, and Arroyo, the 3, 4, 5, 6 hitters, went a combined 0 of 16. So it was really the bottom of the order and the top of the order that was getting the job done and producing for the Red Sox. We know Devers, Duvall, Yoshida are going to be just fine. So that's really impressive stuff for the Red Sox. They do a great job of limiting strikeouts against righties. Gray doesn't pitch too deep in the ball game. So give me the Boston Red Sox at a really great price on the money line on the road. Next up, we see the Texas Rangers taking on the Chicago White Sox. Martin Perez and Michael Kopech are your starters. Martin Perez, a 4.54 ERA now this season, and even steeper 6.5 ERA away from home. He's got a .330 opponent's batting average. He's given up 11 home runs in 45 2/3 innings. The Chicago White Sox are a lineup that's traditionally hit lefties pretty well the last couple of years. Mixed results as of late, but their power numbers are doing pretty fine. Against Andrew Heaney in the first game of the series, the White Sox hit 2 home runs in that game, so they still took the loss 5-2, but I think Michael Kopech is a really good option on the mound for Chicago in this game. He's in much better form recently. His ERA is below 4 on the season at 3.92. Even in his last game where he didn't have his best stuff and his control was off a little bit, he still went 4 1/3 innings, giving up only 1 run with 4 strikeouts. So he's missing bats. He's earned a lot of strikeouts recently. Now 89 strikeouts and 78 innings overall this season. His last 3 games, 2 earned runs or fewer in all 3 of those ball games. Give me the Chicago White Sox on the money line at guaranteed rate field. Next up, we see the Los Angeles Dodgers taking on the Los Angeles Angels. No official starter for the Dodgers right now. Shohei Ohtani going for the Angels. Ohtani's last start on the mound, he didn't really rack up the strikeouts. He only had 3 Ks in 6 innings, but he was good enough for an Angels victory. He had a quality start, 6 innings, 2 runs, and he did not give up a home run and only 1 walk. And the control was really there for Shohei Ohtani in that start. That's what I'm looking to see from him. We know he's going to be able to miss a lot of bats going forward. You're facing a Dodgers team that offensively, as of late against right-handed pitchers, really hasn't been that great, especially, really the last couple of weeks. We saw in that Giants series, the Dodgers really struggled offensively. So I think Ohtani pitches really well in this game, and we'll have to see who the Dodgers go with officially on the mound. But this Dodgers bullpen hasn't been great as of late, so I'm going to take the Los Angeles Angels on the money line at home. And the final game for Wednesday's card in Major League Baseball, it's the San Diego Padres and the San Francisco Giants. Yu Darvish going for San Diego. No official starter for the Giants right now. I got to take the Giants in this game. They're playing great baseball, and Yu Darvish has really struggled on the road this year. He's got a 4.74 ERA overall, but a 6.19 ERA away from Petco Park, 32 innings of work, a 248 points batting average. The big concern for me, only 29 strikeouts with 12 walks to go with it in those 32 innings. The Giants bullpen, if this is a bullpen game, has been one of the best bullpens in baseball. I keep mentioning it. That's one of the big reasons why this team has won so many games recently, and I like their chance in this one. So give me the San Francisco Giants on the money line. And that's it. Those are the games for Wednesday in Major League Baseball. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe, and don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comments section below. Again, if you're looking for my best bets, you can find those at Pick Dawgz Premium. As always, this is Ron Romanelli. Good luck.